You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 134 of Essential Indiana's favorite podcast. I'm Jeremiah Morrell. Today I'm joined, as always, by co-host and producer Dakota Davis.
That's right. Today's episode features Chris Guffey in the third host chair because he has put on his candidate hat. He is running for City Council Ward 3 in Newcastle, Indiana. And to my left, on the screen's right, is Jerry Walden, the current incumbent and Democrat holding the Newcastle City Council Ward 3 seat. We're going to be discussing a little bit of their backgrounds, candidate bios, make sure that you guys get to know each all the little details about each one of them before you vote for them in November. All the little details?
Yeah. All of them? Do I need to be like Bob Lamey used to be with the Colts and explain that Jerry is wearing his pullover sweater with his nice button-down shirt with the thin pinstripes, and Guffey has chosen the long sleeve shirt, no pullover, blue and white, just like Jerry, but checkered pattern. If you join the Patreon, you'll see how much Guffey has emulated Jerry over the course of their lifetimes.
That's right. That is a Patreon story. We're going to be talking to these guys about some city issues as well, the city finances and the current budget situation. Whether the city should own land and what they are doing with downtown, and whether or not each one of them are happy with the direction it is going. And then, of course, to end it, their goals if they are elected for the 2020 to 2024 term. So
that's a hell of a commitment. 2024. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That sounds so
you gotta promise to still live here and everything.
That was in a song, wasn't it?
2024. I don't know. This show, it's an us show. It's about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries, make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you. Other times we'll make you laugh. We did that in the Patreon. We promised 0 laughs now in the free portion.
I got to take my smile off.
You get no laughs, but hopefully you always learn something new. So very excited to have our candidate series continue. This is can't believe it. This is the third cycle we've done.
That's right.
We did a primary cycle. We did the general election in 2018. And now here we are doing the 2019 municipal election. We're almost seasoned pros.
You know, this last primary is the first voting round I've not voted in since 1976.
Wow.
You saved us money, though.
That's older than Jeremiah.
You know what? I understand why, but it's just, I don't know. It's just sad.
You got to get more people committed to running.
I know. It's just sad.
You know,
more people involved in local politics.
You could have run for mayor, and it could have been real exciting in the spring.
Oh Lord, I'd never have that. Guys,
it's a commitment.
Chris and I had a conversation about the property tax cap and this budget go around. He threw some facts in that I didn't know, but when you take away $3.1 million for just our city, I like having nice streets and nice sidewalks and employees getting paid a fair wage, and I don't know, something. When the state's setting on how much money, Chris?
$2 billion. Currently,
and I think you said throw out $10 million each county.
Yeah, $10 million to each county. That's 92 counties. It's $92 million, $920 million. You're still sitting on $1 billion surplus.
And rainy day fund.
Yeah, but I don't want Union County to get $10 million of our money.
Well,
did they earn it?
That's our tax money.
I feel like
it's my money anyways.
I feel like if we put the state in charge of that program, you'd have 3 states all competing for $300 million, and everybody else would get screwed. It'd be like stellar on steroids.
It should be like delegated like the Electoral College with the landmass of the county. Because Ohio County, they're getting the same amount of money as Henry County, and they have like a quarter of the amount of roads to pave that we do.
Yeah, it should be based upon the importance of your roads. We have I-70 and almost have I-69 here.
Yeah,
I think we're almost. I think we can make a case for ourselves.
This isn't fair. I demand equal distribution of the wealth.
Thank you, Bernie.
But it's our money.
It is our money.
Yeah, right before it was stolen from you. All right, so I'm wearing a new shirt.
You are, and
it smells like a new shirt. I took it. It was in the mail today, so it's not been laundered yet. So that explains the odor.
No laundry yet. Luckily, I haven't smelled anything. That's just because the studio smells like roses, and that's all we smell in here. If you want to get a shirt like Jeremiah has, Jeremiah, stand up and turn around.
Model for us.
He has on the shirt from tchip.com/BHOL3. On the front, it has a nice medium-sized Boss Hog of Liberty logo.
Right over your heart where it belongs.
I don't know.
What's it say on the back?
Unless I'm just twisted up.
No, you're twisted up.
It's supposed to be over your left chest.
So what's it say on the back?
On the back, it has...
It says taxation is theft.
Right with the theme, right?
On the back is our tagline, which is local stories, national impact.
There you go.
So that's what's printed on the back of the shirt. We also have two other stores, BHOL1 and BHOL2. If you don't want to support us on T-Ship, well, then you can support us by donating to the show monthly at patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty. You can sign up at any month. I think that the lowest encouraged tier is $5 a month, but we have, Mason Rottinghouse is...
Poor intern.
He's in there for $1 and some change. Stone Aldridge is in there for $1.34 a month.
Contribute at any level you'd like. That's what we say.
Yeah.
We love it if you do, $50 and we give you a shout out.
That's
Are
right.
they still in college?
Mason is.
Mason's still in college.
I think Stone just is a bag boy at a Kroger in Georgia. So
yes,
it's a little different. You almost feel
Mason is our intern and Stone is the We Are Libertarians Network intern. So
yeah,
they each help.
And if you, like Jeremiah said, if you donate at $50 or more a month, we promise to give you a shout out on every episode. Those people are Jonathan Phillips, Craig DaCosta from all the way in Hawaii, and Christy Avery from all the way in Fort Wayne,
Allen County.
Yeah. All right. So that's enough of the intro stuff. Let's talk about our candidates. I have you written down first on my show notes. Wanted to talk to you about a little bit about your background, your bio, and some other things that you've done. And I pulled the information from the show notes from a Facebook post you made in 2015.
Oh,
so I hope it's accurate.
If they're wrong, it's your fault. That's what he's saying.
My fault.
He's blaming.
Well,
or your people. I don't know.
It was 4 years ago. A lot of things could have happened in 4 years. Maybe instead of just a master's from Ball State, maybe he's got his doctorate now. Who knows?
Well, I should have, because I actually have 2 masters and then a certification of school counseling, which is not a full master's, just because I didn't decide to go to a counseling facility to do work there, which I thought was a waste of time.
You may have more degrees than all of the other councilmen and councilman candidates combined.
I like going to college. Well,
because I was looking today, and I think that there were 2 that ran their bios in the Courier today, and they're both they're not just, but they're Chrysler High School graduates.
Yep.
Honestly, my last master's degree was a pilot program through Ball State, and it was an total online, and we basically, in a nutshell, we worked with all the professors to say, you need to look at doing it this way, because Dakota might write all my English assignments and you might do all my science assignments and turn it in. So those are the things that we worked through, and it was free. So I took advantage of it.
I'm pretty sure that I'm good if I never see the inside of a classroom again. I got my associates at Ivy Tech, which is the, Dave Letterman calls Muncie the Harvard of Muncie, and Ivy Tech is the South Harmon Institute of Technology at Muncie. So I went to Ivy Tech and for my associates, and then I did get a bachelor's degree at Indiana Wesleyan. But I'm good. After those 2, I'm set.
Yeah, and the bachelor's degree at Indiana State, I was fortunate enough to be there when Larry Bird was playing.
You're a Sycamore.
Yes, I'm the fighting Sycamore back then. Had an Indian princess, an Indian chief, and now they're called Leaves. I don't know how that happened. So
the town in New York I'm from originally was the Red Raiders, and they used to have a Indian chief as their logo. Now they're just the Raiders, like the Oakland Raider kind of a deal. Not we can't do that anymore.
So you like we said, you were raised here. You graduated from Tri-High originally, right?
Yeah.
And but you lived in Newcastle first.
Yeah, we lived on Broad Street right there at 21st Street in an apartment. Then when I was 2, we moved to South 25th Street, just right off Grand. Fergie's Cabinet Shop. We were on the other side of Bennett's Grocery there. It's a white house with black shutters.
Well, shout out to Mark Shawnor for me knowing where that cabinet shop is.
We went to Hernley Westminster House. I was in the first kindergarten group there, and then went to Hernley first through 4th grade, and then they bused me all the way to Green Street my 5th grade year for environmental reasons.
You had those back then too.
Oh yeah. The whole thing was they wanted to separate Booty Dobbs and I. And what they didn't know that Booty Dobbs' family moved to 7th Street over the summer. So, and my parents weren't too happy because they wanted me to go back to Hernley once they found that out. So they said, he'll finish a year here and we're moving out of town. So that's how that all happened.
But then you went after high school at Tri-High, you went to Indiana State and got a degree in industrial technology education. Mm-hmm. What does that degree entail?
Well, that's old school. That has what used to be called shop classes.
Oh, okay.
When I started out at Newcastle, I did my student teaching back here at Newcastle.
Hold up your fingers for me. He's got all 10. What kind of shop teacher are you?
Well, smart. Smart and careful.
One that graduated from Indiana State.
Yeah. But I did my student teaching at the middle school, and there was an opening that came about, and Paul Krauser was the principal at the high school. He was my principal out at Tri-High, and he worked out a deal with Indiana State for me to go ahead and fill that spot out while I still finished my degree, and I actually never interviewed for a teaching job at Newcastle. It just fell in my lap. I was in the classroom for 12 years, and I taught a little bit of everything. But my big thing was the drafting program. I changed it from desktop drafting. We did engineering architectural.
Did you guys go to MicroStation or AutoCAD?
No, we went to AutoCAD. We used AutoCAD 1, and we did a program with them. Larry Colby and I wrote a really nice grant. And what we had to do is send data back to AutoCAD. When you drew the screws and bolts and nuts, saved them on a disk. Now it's all drag and drop. So
absolutely,
we were on the groundwork with that. So I was in the classroom for 12 years. And then Dr. Pavey came knocking on my classroom door one day and said, Jerry, I need to see you. And I go, okay. What I do now, one of those things. He says, you're going to go to Ball State and start working on your counseling degree. Okay, Dr. Pavey. So I did that, and I was in guidance counseling for 23 years, so a total of 35 years at the high school. And I was the full in charge of all the testing at the high school. And probably all the things that because I loved being around the kids. That was my favorite part of it. But when you don't believe in something, it's hard to go in each and every day and be in charge of it. And the testing is wrong. And just couldn't convince the state politicians of that. It's doing nothing to improve education.
It's a battle that's still being fought.
Yes, it needs to be done away with.
So then you retired after 35 years at Newcastle High School. And according to the Facebook posts in 2015, you decided you still wanted to be involved in the community and wanted to run for your city council seat. Man,
Dickie Hahn,
still true.
Dickie Hahn was a neighbor just a couple of houses down from me. And when Dickie moved out of state, he had transferred with Chrysler Corporation. Jimmy Kidd served. And then Jimmy came and talked to me and said, Jerry, I think this is going to be my last go-round. I actually live in my grandmother's house. So I bought the house in 1980. And my mom's mother lived on Vine Street, and my brother lived on North 25th Street. And just been part of that side of town. And as Chris knows, the northeast side of town gets neglected.
Yep, just the north. Really anything north of Broad seems to get left behind.
Oh man, you got to be bigger picture. You got to be like north of Q. Everybody north of Q gets screwed. north of Q and east of Indiana.
And that's why I'm excited about 16th Street. And Chris may not be aware
east of 14th rather. Yeah,
but 16th Street from Broad out to the hospital is going to be totally redone here. How the state is on this stuff, but supposedly start next year. And the base is so bad that they're going to have to take it down like they did Broad Street, at least part of Broad Street.
Sidewalks included?
Well, that's
walking paths?
That's where I'm getting to.
How walkable are we going to be?
We have actually asked the state to consider taking sidewalks at least to Washington Street. Mm-hmm. And if they really want to do it right, out to the hospital. We have nursing homes there. We have the hospital, which is the largest employer in our county. And Chris knows this, I'm sure, too, that people walk 14th Street like crazy.
Oh, absolutely.
And part of mine and Rex's plan that we've been looking at, and Jimmy started it with Rex, we're going to get the Ted Fitzgerald Trail from Wilbur-Wright Elementary to Osborne Park. That's going to happen. But part of this stellar, what we're trying to do is finish out sidewalks on 14th Street out to Garner Street. And that's going to tie.
That'll connect all the trails together.
And guys, that's just common sense.
Can't leave out that south side of town, that last connection between Southview and Woodbrook and the hundreds of houses that are down there.
Yeah.
Got to get that one tied in too.
Well,
that last 800 feet.
And Aaron and I had a meeting over at the state capitol. And, Corey Murphy went with us, and they're going to redo State Road 3 also. And we had that third lane on the east side. Basically, what we offered up, is there any way we could give up that third lane and put sidewalks from 300 all the way out to Memorial Park? And really what hit home with me is Kathy and I go to Cafe Royale every morning. She has a hang up with that. But we saw a family, and there is that first big snow we had this last winter. And they were walking with a baby carriage, two small kids, mom and dad. Dad was in a McDonald's uniform. Mom was in Burger King uniform. Cars were coming. They'd lift every kid up and baby carriage, put them in the snow next to the cemetery.
And honestly, if you look at that area, you don't have to give up a travel lane. You've got, especially in front of the cemetery, you could have a walking path there very reasonably, and not have to even give up the northbound travel lane.
But we were trying to offer them something to say, this makes sense.
Yeah,
it just makes sense with Walmart out there and Ivy Tech out there, and the next issue that we'd have to look at to get walking lanes across 3. Have sidewalks on the other side also. So,
I don't think it has to be full blown sidewalks. Yeah. It just has to be. You have to be able to receive them. So would it need?
It has to be a sidewalk, and we'd have to talk to the businesses over there. So I don't know. That's some of the future things that I'd like to see considered. It's just like 103. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. That's the only state road in the whole state of Indiana intersects I-70. It doesn't have an exchange. The only one.
It's in our Henry County master plan. In the comprehensive plan, it's there. And it's requested. It's hoped for
purposely.
Yeah,
and it's going to cost $80,000 just to do an engineering survey there.
Holy cow!
So my thing was, guys, you're redoing 70 from Greenfield to Richmond. That's our corridor that you're trying to build up. why don't you just go ahead and do the engineering survey while you're at it? Because you're setting on how much money?
$2 billion.
$2 billion.
To add that interchange, I would guess just in rough.
I can tell you what it is.
Rough numbers, 12 to 15 million, I would guess.
They shot us figure 20 million.
Yeah, that was being conservative. It was 13 million. Muncie turned down having Centennial over their bypass. They were going to build a bridge there, and they were only going to have access from 2 bounds instead of 3, or instead of 4 bounds, northbound, southbound kind of a deal. And that was a $13 million project, but that was going to add a bridge. So yeah, that's.
And it could actually mirror the State Road 3 intersection, the exchange there. It'd be the same setup.
Yeah, could be very similar.
And think about this, guys. You have 500 between 103 and 3. What would that property there be worth? Because every economic development meeting that I've gone to that Corey's had, the number one priority for industry, new move-ins, is access to the interstate.
It's going to be growth south. That's the most expected thing in the county and in the city. Obviously, and I would suspect, Newcastle moved, Chris, south, and it follows 3. It kind of looks like the shape of Alaska, where Newcastle it reaches all the way down and touches I-70 at State Road 3. I would suspect over time you're going to see the city limits, with the exception of my community, so that I can enjoy the lower taxes in white estates. You guys are going to keep annexing
we
more and more and more.
With the sewer issue out there. So.
Right.
Boy, could you help me some more?
Well,
the grass that they just got to grow, they're digging up in front of my house today.
Are they again?
Yeah.
Geez.
I don't know how we're being blessed with another excavator, but they just got the grass seed to grow and they're digging again.
Well, it's I'm still floored that the state came through with what they did on that. I never would have guessed that would have happened. And that is because of a lot of hard work by Greg and Dave. It's honestly, you have to say that.
Yep.
I don't think the county knew exactly what. They couldn't go out there and build a new sewage plant. And
the county's not in the sewage plant business.
There's no way.
It's a very convoluted project where the houses there had been paying city utilities for 50 years, and then you get to where all of a sudden it's not functioning, and it's like, well, hell, we don't own the asset. You just been processing the stuff that's been coming down the line.
It should have been done years ago, Jeremiah.
That's a very strange. How we got there is not anything anybody in this room did, but it's just how the heck did we get there?
No, it shouldn't have taken this long to fix that issue.
So we know from experience that if you start getting involved in one area of the community, like the city council, you find yourself being involved in a whole lot of other areas. So what other things do you do to occupy your time?
As far as related to city business, probably the most enjoyable committee for me has been the housing committee. We've taken on Castle Heights project, which is 14th Street to 19th Street, A Avenue to I Avenue, which, Chris, that includes just a little bit of our ward there. Veterans come in with some monetary help. Duke's come in with some monetary help. We're kind of using it as a test site, and I wish I had the exact numbers to share with everyone here tonight, but it's really flooring the committee, the data coming back as far as how many properties are actually owned by people who live there, what are rentals.
Very few owner-occupied.
It would surprise you. And I don't want to give any figures out because they're not exact right now. But how many houses have no electrical hookup? The bases have been pulled.
No power. Yep.
Yeah, no power. And how many have no water hookups?
That's a theme all over the city, particularly in the third district here. As over the years, I've knocked on a lot of these doors for the last 10 years in different political races and volunteering and being a candidate myself. And the same houses have been a problem for a very long time.
Well,
and you can tell, there used to be blue dots on the abandoned houses. The Postal Service always put blue dots on the mailboxes. And now it's gone from the blue dots to the the meter's gone. It's been so long, the power company's come and taken the meter. And
who you got to feel sorry for. I noticed today, Chris, coming home from work, they actually had the tear down going on Woodward down there in 1700 block. You feel sorry for the neighbors who have to live by those properties.
Yeah, because a lot of times, the yards get overgrown and neglected. It becomes a breeding ground for possums and raccoons.
Well, that was overgrown, and that was city owned. And that, to me, that's what was embarrassing about it.
Yeah.
Chris, you get those requests, don't you? People asking what to do or how do you handle it?
Yeah. So there was actually a house on my block that the weeds had grown up real far, and my neighbor was like, "Hey, what do I have to do?" And I'm like, "Well, hold on, let me reach out," because I know at some point I remember hearing, like, I know the city contracts out or used to contract out people, and so I was like, "Hold on, let me reach out to see if I can find somebody," because he was going to mow the yard anyways. I was like, "Let me see if I can get the city to pay you to mow the yard." So,
how'd that turn out?
I think he just ended up mowing it.
They have a couple of contractors that go out and do that. Supposed to go out and do that.
Yeah, like if you drive down 18th, there's a few houses on the west side that you'll see every month and a half. It's knee high and just shaggy
it's
looking. It's
only supposed to be 8 inches.
Yeah.
So can the
and that's
council
right on 18th Street?
Can the council give neighbors amnesty? If you say, hey, this is a nuisance and I'm doing this for the good of the community, for the neighborhood, is it a thing where the council can?
No one's going to say anything.
Yeah, the council can keep you from getting in trouble, and it's just going to be okay. It's abandoned.
The council can't stop you from getting in trouble because technically, I guess it'd be trespassing. But the city does not have any ordinance because I asked because somebody had told me that the city had an ordinance, so I asked about it, and the city does not have an ordinance that says you can't. We actually have an ordinance that says you can. It's like a Good Samaritan Act or something like that.
It's like the Circle Drive in front of my house, Chris. I've mowed that since 1980. Yeah. That's city owned. City's never taken care of that. Yeah. And I got direct.
And even becoming a city councilman, you still have to mow the damn thing.
That's okay. We planted the pine trees there. There were no pine trees, and it's called Pinecrest. We planted new pine trees there.
What kind of perks come with being a city councilman if you still have to mow the...
You still got to push most city ground.
You know what? For the 1400 Plaza, Aaron and I both told the mayor, you put grass in there, we'll maintain the grass. We'll switch out months.
Yeah, you'll do February and March.
Yeah.
And then Dickin has to do April until November. And then the rest of them can cover from there. Yeah,
at least. There you go.
So, Chris, we need to get to your bio before we start getting into everything else.
Alrighty.
You decided to get more involved in city and county politics, following Jeremiah's campaign and helping out with that. You found yourself as a member of the Monuments Committee at Memorial Park because that's what we do in the Libertarian Party. We get involved with Memorial Park and then decide to run for office.
Yeah, so
you take a volunteer position with the government, and then you decide we need to overthrow it.
Yeah,
it doesn't. None of this works.
Is that what you call grassroots?
That's it. You get on the inside and go, "This is terrible."
Is that why you decided to run, or is there another reason?
No, I actually had decided to run before. So I had went to the convention for the Libertarians, and actually called Jerry before I went to convention and told him I didn't want him hearing anything from the newspaper or anywhere else. I wanted to be man-to-man and tell him.
That's a class act.
And so I decided that I was going to run. And, it's nothing against Jerry. It's just people need a choice. This is our right to vote, and they need a choice. And the
city elections aren't any fun when you don't have one.
Yeah. And
it's the process.
I call myself young, technically.
You are young.
You're younger than me, so
yeah,
I'll allow it.
So it's time for the younger generation to step up and take pride in the town that they live in and try to lead the charge and try to get us in the right direction that we think in 30 years, that we want to see the town in.
So since you've decided to run, you've gotten pretty involved and going to meetings all the time, it seems. I work out with you in the morning, so I know how often you go to meetings. Have you enjoyed becoming more involved?
Absolutely. So when I decided to run, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And, you just don't realize how busy your schedule fills up. Like I used to have a lot of downtime. I used to sleep a lot. And so now it's always like, oh, hey, what are you doing on Monday night? Well, I got the city council meeting. And then if it's the the second meeting or the third week, well, I got the city council meeting followed by the park board meeting, and that'll be a 2-hour meeting. And then next thing I know, it's, all right, well, the monuments committee is so-and-so. Do you want to join the monuments committee? I'm like,
I'm going to all the meetings anyway. Why not?
I'm like, sure. Sounds like a good plan. And then you get, you start developing friendships with like Sean Defoe. And so he's a member of Newcastle Downtown. And he's like, hey, we're looking for board members. Would you like to come on? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I joined Newcastle Downtown. Kathy Hamilton just called me last week to ask if I want to join the new Veterans Museum that they're forming. And so she doesn't know yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to take that. And then obviously go into the city meetings, and you just learn things that you didn't know was happening, and you just feel, more knowledgeable. And then when people have questions and they come to you and you're like, oh yeah, listen, I got that covered. I understand where that's at. And that's how it works.
You start explaining local government to everybody else.
Yeah.
You start learning the players.
It works out that people like your neighbor.
You could find it could be something every night.
Yeah.
Every night.
There is, yeah.
And during the day too.
And that's the hardest.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me. Why they say we want young people to get involved. Why do you make a meeting at 9:30 in the morning?
Yeah. 1 o'clock.
Normal people, younger people are working. Like
Fortunately, I have a boss that understands. So
yeah, well, and my bosses are pretty lenient about it.
You've attended a lot of stuff that typically, if you were at a rigid,
if I was at a rigid, and I just tell them, I'm like, hey, look, I've got a meeting at 10 o'clock. I'm just going to go ahead and take my lunch at 10 o'clock, and I'll be back.
And then you'll just be hangry at 3.
Hangry and sleepy.
Hangry at 12. What are you talking about to me?
So. This is my brunch break.
I'm on brunch. 15 minutes, guys.
You are currently an agriculture electronics technician.
That is true.
Do you think that lends itself to being on the city council in any way, shape, or form?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Patience.
Patience. Nothing in the government is quick. And then also, you have to be able to look at schematics and find out what's wrong, and then you have to diagnose the problem, and then you have to diagnose what's the best way to fix it. You can look at something and it could be like, well, it doesn't turn on. Is the easiest solution to find out why? Does it have power, or is it, do you just go dive straight in?
Start looking at some analytics.
Yeah. Do you start at the basics, or do you just dive right in and hope you discover the answer? So I think being able to diagnose the problems and finding out the base root of the problems would be the biggest help, and then move on from there.
But before all this, you graduated from Newcastle.
Yep.
You were raised here.
Yeah. So I was actually born in 1989 here in I believe in Newcastle.
You're here for the 80s.
Yeah, solid. For
just made it.
6 months. I was born in June.
6 months.
Yeah. So and then I lived in Hospital Heights until I was about 12. Moved to Albany, Kentucky, which everybody from Newcastle has somebody that they're related to.
Wait, you moved to Albany, Kentucky?
Yeah.
You're like a first generation Guffey here, then, man.
You guys got it's Albany.
Albany.
Different claims in Albany call different things, I think.
Well, it's like Monticello.
Monticello, yeah. Well, and so not only that, so we moved down there, and we stayed there for a year, and then we moved back.
I got to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it Washington or Washington Street?
It's Washington. See, my family's from Burnside, Kentucky, the Somerset area. So.
Yep. Yeah. So he's right out. See, everybody knows everywhere.
Eastern Kentucky, man. Yeah.
But so then I moved out to Heights.
Those are my customers. I love Kentucky.
Moved out to Heights again, and then left there, and we moved around the city a little bit here and there. And 2009, deployed to Afghanistan. Got back 2010. Went to Lafayette for about 6 months. Determined that was not home.
Now that doesn't mean you went to Purdue.
No, I did not go to Purdue.
I mean PU, right?
I partied.
Glad Rex isn't here this week.
I partied at Purdue, but I did not go to Purdue.
You went on Saturdays.
Yeah. Well, and so I was living in Lafayette, and at the time, I was actually making the drive back every Tuesday night to bowl in the Rose Bowl Mixed League. So I was driving 2 hours to bowl.
You just could never let go of Henry County.
No, it's home. Henry and Newcastle, it's home. So you always want to move back. So I moved back and been living here. And
you skipped a portion of time there. For 6 years, you were in the Army National Guard.
Yeah, I signed the contract in 2006, like late 2006, when I was a junior in high school.
Was that just like a weak moment, or was it on purpose?
No, I knew from the age of about 13 or 14 that I was going to join the Army National Guard.
Because your brother did it as well.
My brother did. My brother's 2 years older than me. He joined, and I was like, can't let him go.
Those girls like the guy in a uniform.
I was like, nah. I was like, that wasn't it. It was it's my brother, and if anything were to happen to him, I couldn't let him just go by himself. So,
because they let you serve right next to each other.
Well, you can volunteer for the deployments, and so we probably could have got on. But luckily he didn't go when they went to Iraq in 2008. Yeah, 2007, 2008. And so, anyways, signed in 2006, got out in 2012 with an honorable discharge. So.
All right. Well, you already covered the ways that you have become more involved in the community. So I guess we'll dive right into some discussion about the issues that are facing the city and some of the big things that we've seen go on as we've covered the news in Newcastle. The big thing, of course, is last week, that was the start of our candidate series, even though the two candidates that we had in here, you can't vote for them.
Yep.
Aaron Dickin and Rex Peckinpah, who are both the city councilmen, we invited them on to talk about the 2020 City of Newcastle budget, and because it was killed at the last city council meeting. So we'll start with you, Jerry. You were there. You could have made a motion to get the budget to pass. Why not?
Well, I think Aaron and Rex covered the main part. There's still some discussions going on with some of the departments. It would not have been fair to have passed that with that still going on.
Now,
but my other part was,
if there's no budget, that means we have no city and we're a lawless free land, right?
We're
good.
Desert, right?
Mad Max.
The other thing is, and I don't remember Aaron or Rick stating this, but every council member is part of that committee.
Right.
And we had two council members not in attendance. And that was my other side of it, because it just wouldn't have been right not having everyone vote for it, because it's that big of an issue.
That was the second reading. You guys, forgive me, you do 3 readings,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay. So that wouldn't have been a final. It was just a vehicle to get to the third reading so that you could adopt it.
So what we'll have to do is go back to phase 1.
So if at this next Monday's budget meeting you say yes to a new budget,
go to a second reading.
You'll go to a second reading the following. So it's a 3-week cycle again.
As long as things have been taken care of, because there's a process. People might have been told last year there's not going to be any new monies available for this next year, but you still have to go through the process. And Chris, I believe you there when one of the representatives of the fire department got up and spoke.
First reading,
Yep. And Chris was he was not negative. He complimented the administration, but he said there's a process. And there is. And there are dates to that process. And it need to go through the processes.
Real quick, to touch up, because about the budget, I don't see. That's what I thought, that it would have to go back to the phase 1. But a councilman that I talked to said that council has told him that all you have to do is just go back to second reading, because if you go to phase 1, you can't pass the budget. You have to default to the 2019 budget, because you have to go through phase 1. You have to give 30 days notice of the public hearing. and you can't pass that by November 1st.
Okay, that isn't what council said at that meeting.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you what one council. See, when you don't have direct lines to the council.
Yeah,
but
I believe Mr. Copenhaver stated that we had to start the process over. And I may not have heard it correctly, but
now was that a private meeting or was that at the public?
No, that was at the
city meeting.
Yeah, at the city meeting.
And that's why I thought that it had to go back to phase 1.
So you heard the same thing I did.
Yeah, I heard the exact same thing you did, and that's why I was thinking it. And then I've been talking to another councilman, one of our favorites, Aaron, because I harass him. But
he needs to be harassed.
I agree. That's why I do it. And so I've been talking to him, and he said that he talked to council and that we could just go back to phase 2 as long as there's no changes in the budget. So,
but if there are changes,
if there's any changes, then you'd have to start the whole process.
You could adopt at that point. You probably could pass 2 and then make a modification at 3, or can you change an ordinance at the midpoint, or if you make any alterations, do you?
You could make some. You can make some changes at 2.
Yeah,
and accept those changes, adopt them,
right,
and then you can go to third and final reading. And with the budget, we speed through some things, but this will not be one of those things.
Yeah. So,
it's too important.
So, Chris,
and the thing is, I go through it line by line. In the last 2 years, there's the software package isn't good that we've been using, and they're looking at Christy and Brenda are looking at some new packages. There's something wrong with the cell setup, and the total sums were coming out wrong. And this time around, it looked pretty clean. So it's
an interesting process.
It's plug and play, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simply plug and play with the figures. And
right, you're taking. I assume it's baseline budgeting. You're taking a lot of what you did the year prior, and then adding in some cost of living and a few projects here and there. But generally, it's probably a year-over-year typical process.
Yes. Yep.
So, Chris, with your side of the budget, not being an elected official, what do you think? What do you think about them not passing the budget?
Oh, I actually commend them on not passing that budget, because it's just like Jerry said. There's a process. They didn't talk to fire. They didn't talk to the FOP. They didn't talk to the city workers. As far as I knew, the city workers weren't even up for negotiation until the week following that meeting, or following the second meeting. Yeah. So
they were scheduled.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. So how do you even present a budget to get voted on when you haven't even talked to the people that you negotiate contracts with?
You could say that's a negotiating tactic.
Sure it is. But if all the city workers strike, then what do you do?
But it's just out of respect, guys.
Well, yeah.
100%.
It's just out of respect.
It's just like it was his name, Chris, from the fire department that talked. It's just like he said, even if we're not going to get raises or anything, you sit across the table from me in good faith and we negotiate. Because you know what? We may not be able to give you a cost and living raise, but you know what we can do? We can give you an extra 2 days off. We might be able to negotiate something like that. We can negotiate soft benefits.
So in 2020, if you are elected and part of reading and approving the 2021 fiscal budget, what are some things that you would like to see in there that maybe get changed versus what's in 2020?
Maybe not so much money in just the general fund. Let's actually direct those funds to departments like the street department, the fire department, the public services and the city services that we are required to provide. Your trash gets picked up, your streets are paved, if your house catches on fire, the fire department's there. Something happens and you need the police, they're there. EMS is there, and that's what we need to do is move the general fund. And then if something happens and, if we prioritize that over projects, and if something happens and they need to move money and they have to come to the city, then they have to come to the council and show that there's an actual emergency, and then we can actually move the funds.
And that happens anyway.
Yeah. So
you can do a cost transfer.
So
what you're saying is you're advocating for the parts of city government that touch you rather than the fixtures, right?
Yeah.
The services rather than the assets.
1400 Plaza looks great. But, and I know that comes from TIF, but if the money can be used to better maintain our streets, put sidewalks in, things like that, things that, we need to provide the city, that we say we're going to provide the city.
And that's a big part of the conversation we've had on this show now. And a theme that we've seen is if you look at downtown Newcastle and you just jump on Beacon and you click on the property owners and you say, hey, that parcel there, that's owned by a nonprofit. That parcel's owned by a church. That parcel's owned by the county. That parcel's owned by the city. You're starting to run out of parcels like the one we're sitting in that are owned by somebody private that's actually paying taxes for all of these services and things that we want. And at some point there has to be that balance. I wanted to hear from each of you guys and, what's the future of downtown? At some point,
well, no,
we saw, but downtown's a part of the conversation because of the castle conversation that's happened in this last summer.
I don't know if there's a conversation there.
All of these buildings are trending. The Mariana Bank building is in the city's hands. It's just you've had this theme.
Can I get back to the budget just real quick?
Sure.
I think one of the things that needs to be looked at is the emergency services.
Yep.
Because right now it's 80-20, and I think that split needs to be changed.
80-20.
80% goes to the general fund of what they bring in. And they bring in a tremendous amount of money.
all the emergency runs that they do, and they've increased.
And they've increased, and they're basically going to be countywide before too long. They kind of are now. And I think Josh has some really good concepts to go along with that. And with the new facility, which is going to be awesome. I don't know if you guys had a chance to go in there.
I haven't yet.
Career program's already putting it to use, and there are night classes there already.
We've seen the pictures on their Facebook page.
Yeah, you guys need to go in there and see that.
This is in the old RMC building?
Yes, in the front part there. But that's one part that needs to be looked at specifically. As far as downtown, guys, I've seen Broad Street go through so many transitions. When I grew up, that was every Friday, Saturday night. Mm-hmm. When they put the mall in down there, that was the stupidest thing that could have ever taken place. Cruising was a big deal and had been for a number of years. Then when State Road 3 went in and people started moving their businesses down there, it got in bad shape. And we needed something to anchor that. Now, is 1400 Plaza what I envisioned it to be? No. I bumped heads with administration over 14th Street. That was probably my number one thing. I traveled that for 35 years, 32 years, because the last 3 years I couldn't use it. They were going to close that down.
The first year of this show, we were asking for some hero to come out there and remove the barrels for us because
that is the only road that goes through town that's not interrupted with a railroad system now. Matter of fact, it goes all the way to the southern boundary of Henry County and all the way to the northern boundary of Henry County, uninterrupted.
You want to close it right in downtown, right in the middle.
I'm not for closing any streets, but if you wanted to close a street, why didn't you talk about closing 15th Street now? It goes nowhere now.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call the library nowhere, but I mean, if you want the librarians picking on you, I saw Parks and Recreation. Those people are vicious.
At Broad Street, though, once you get past Broad Street, it ends because of the closing of the railroad crossing there. And
that is true.
That was really frustrating for me. It was a big deal to the post office. I talked to Kyle several times. It was messing up their routes coming into town because it still showed that being open. That's how I went to get Jack's Donuts. That's how I went to Dairy Queen. That's how I came back from baseball practice for 18 years.
At this point, I want to raise a practical question. 14th Street is reopened, but the damn stoplight at the post office has been flashing for 5 years. Who's in charge of that?
Well,
traffic committee?
We looked into that. And
can we just take it down? We took down the one in front of the Elks Club.
Well, no. I asked that.
Do we need another hero to cut down the thing? Because in the cover of darkness, we can accomplish a lot, Jerry.
The thing is visibility there, because that's probably the most jaywalked street in the whole town, probably in the whole county.
Yeah.
But with the nursing home facility there,
Brandy out there with her dog, and
it's a visual thing. It might be sometime that it goes back to a full green, yellow, red stuff. Right now, it's going to stay as it is, and that's the people around there.
So it's a feature now. It's not broken. It's just that's the way it's supposed to be.
That's how it is now, and the businesses around there and the people who live there. That's how they wanted it. And I have people from around town that I depend on who give me information whether I want it or not. But they're very honest, and you got to appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And it was hands down, leave it as is.
All I gotta say is,
but we did look into it.
You going north that way? If you stop where you're supposed to, I cannot see that light. Mm-mm. Like I can't. Like at the bend.
No, because you're underneath of it.
Yeah, yeah. So let's move that back.
Yeah. So as an overall big picture thing, as far as the city owning buildings, like the interest that was expressed in the Castle Theater, you a supporter of that? You're shaking your head no?
No, I would have never voted for that. Yeah. And I don't think the council would have voted for that.
Are there any city buildings we need to get rid of now that we shouldn't have?
Well,
Jerry's like, hold on. Let me throw a dart. Which one?
That's a fence that you got. You really had to walk. You don't want it to sit empty.
We're not fence walkers here, man.
But you don't want it to sit empty, because when anything sits empty, it decays. And if you can't have it occupied with something going on in there, you're going to be tearing down. The best example is the big warehouse right across from the drive-through there on Broad Street.
Oh, yeah.
23.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I know which one you're talking about. It used to be an old suntan.
Yeah, but if you look at it, it has a hole in the roof. The guy lives in, I think it's California, Chris. Yeah. Is that what I've been told the last 4 meetings? But now if you look at the wall, notice that the brick is popping. One window broke out 2 weeks ago.
You get water in it, and you don't have heating and cooling, and the roof fails.
It's starting to move.
Yeah.
Well, we can't do anything with the owner out of state.
Yeah, we can't.
So that means
put him in the courts or anything.
That means that the city's going to have to be responsible for bringing that down, and that just bites me in the rear end. One of the things that the housing committee is going to do, we're going to put together a letter and recommend to the county, first go around on these tax sales, let it be local people. Second go around, open it up to online, because that online's killing us, guys. Yeah. The last go around, I had 2 people who buy up properties here in town, renovate them, sell them, or rent them out. They missed out on 10 properties each. That's 20 properties that would have been owned locally that were bought from people, by people from out of state. That's just not right. It's just like Firestone property. That guy bought that looking at a picture that was 10 years old, and he thought the facility was still standing there. It had been burnt down for 5 years.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating.
What about you, Chris? Did you support? What did you think about the Castle Theater situation and buildings in general? Do we want the city to buy these buildings to make it look better?
I don't think that's our job. It's not the job of the city to buy the buildings. I understand that we need to do what we can, but we don't need to take them on as our own personal responsibility. And especially like the castle. We're not the city does not run a business. We are not a business. It shouldn't run like that. It's just like the Armory. I've looked at the budget, and there's a line item for $100,000 for utilities, for the Armory and the city center. But in the estimated revenue section, there is no line item that I saw for the estimated revenue of the Armory.
It's just costing us money.
So, I don't know if Jerry, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but I don't know if you know the numbers. Like, does the Armory actually?
But we were paying that anyway because Mayor Small bought that for $1.
And
we were paying that heating cooling bill anyway, and it's gone in and they've renovated some of the stuff, and that's brought the cost down.
So that's where that conversation is 10 years from now, who should that building belong to? Is that 10 years from now, should that be the city's or should it be?
I think at some point you'd hope that someone would approach the city and say, we'd really like to take this over.
Or can you list it? Can you call a couple of realtors and say, hey, what's it worth? And can we get it sold? I mean,
you know what? I would assume so, but you know what happens when you assume?
Mm-hmm. The Elks might need a new bingo hall.
Yeah. Redelman's was the best hardware store in the world, guys.
I like Jerry's Supermarket.
I grew up on Jerry's Supermarket, man.
Back
all
in
the time.
Becker Brothers. You go back before that, Becker Brothers.
Back in that back, they had the little quarter machine where you could bet horses.
You degenerate, you.
I got a funny story about Becker Brothers when they owned it there.
Good thing sports
right by the railroad tracks. I was 5 years old, and my brothers and our neighborhood guys put me in charge of watching out for the police or anyone from the store, and they bought me an ice cream cone. And they were taking watermelons down there and smashing them on the railroad track.
You're the lookout guy.
Next thing I know, Ronnie Young's tapping me on the shoulder. He says, "Are you supposed to be the lookout for those guys?" And I started crying because I knew we were had, so I wasn't a very good lookout.
Not a good lookout.
They didn't pay you enough. They only paid you in one
Just an ice cream cone. There used to be an ice cream place. Yeah, funny story. Those are good memories.
I mean, we're looking at the list of buildings. I mean, should the city should they have saved the seafood place on the south side of town? Over by Chrysler?
That place was a mess.
I lived right there for a couple years, right next to it on H Avenue.
What is the name of that place?
In that
the porthole.
Porthole, yeah.
I was so happy to see that place go.
When I was attending Indiana State, there were people that we knew in town that came here every Saturday to get a steak at the porthole.
Now, see, I was at a party one time, and someone started talking about the history of that building. It might have been my grandma. I partied with my grandma. I'm
partied with your grandmother.
And I think
couldn't get a date
that
night. Or?
I think it was her talking about.
He probably brought his date with him.
Now wife.
Yeah. She was. I was married at the time, so she was starting telling me about the tank and how everybody used to love the tank and how it was this huge fixture and people would drive from hours away to go eat at the best seafood restaurant for miles. And
they had a banquet there every year for the drivers from the 500. You'd go there and get autographs from them all.
Wow. But I had a little bit too much to drink that night, and
you don't remember all the details.
And
his grandma can drink him under the table. His
grandma
can drink him under the table.
She can. About 2 weeks later,
he's only been drinking for 2 years. He's learning.
Come on, I got to build that tolerance up to get on that level. About 2 weeks later, a package showed up at my house. It's not an Amazon box or something. I'm like, I don't know what this is. And I opened it up, and it was a glass from the tank, Newcastle, Indiana, and I had bought it off of eBay that night.
They used to have a big aquarium in there where they had fish and lobsters and all that.
Could you pick out your lobster? Was it one of those?
You know what? I was so young then. I can't remember.
I had lunch at Kona Jack's on the north side of Indy today, and I thought it's a seafood restaurant. And
really good seafood restaurant.
A seafood is got to be the only place where you have aquariums. You're just looking at fish, where you're eating fish. You don't go to a steakhouse and like have they don't have cows just wandering, sitting in the lobby, or you're just looking at an Angus or little baby calves. That's tomorrow's veal.
It sounds like a business venture for L&K Farm.
But the porthole they were known for their filet mignons. So,
really?
Yeah.
Well, guess the last point here, I want to ask each one of you. We'll start with you, Jerry. If you are elected again in November, What are the big things you want to focus on for the next term?
I really wanted to see these sidewalks through on our part of town. I just think it'd be very beneficial. I had the water separation project that ended right there, Parkview Avenue as we are. But putting in those new sidewalks down through there was awesome. That used to be a gravel pit way back in the day. Brick factory or cement block factory where Henry County Glass is. Block apartment buildings.
Yep.
That's where the office was. But if we could get those extended out and connect the hospital to the rest of the city with sidewalks, and connect Garner Street with sidewalks, and connect Wilbur Wright Elementary with sidewalks, it's going to be a safety appeal. And, down the road, we might be able to connect Michigan Street with sidewalks, since they don't have any right now, or 24th Street out to Osborne Park with sidewalks. You just don't know. But I think the next big deal for the city council to deal with, it's going to be on our plate, are going to be upgrading the codes and zonings. It's not been done since the 60s, I believe it was said.
Oh, wow.
You're going to require flush toilets in every house?
Yeah. There were some homes that I went to when I was still at school that.
Is that when we're finally going to be able to have chickens in the city?
Yeah, chickens in the city.
What about you, Chris?
I think the first and the foremost thing that I'm going to try to get accomplished is transparency. Like we need to update the cameras at the meetings, the audio. I mean, we need a microphone for the mayor needs to be mic'd.
What happens if the mayor just pushes his mic away?
Well, unfortunately, he serves at the council at that point because he's at a council meeting. So the microphone will go back up there. And then if he wants to yell at me after the meeting, that's fine. We can take it out. And, I've been
just leave the cameras on for the fight.
I've been yelled at.
Hey, at least we have cameras now.
Yeah.
Sometimes it seems like somebody puts the lens cap back on, I've noticed in the last month or two. I don't know how that's worked, but yeah. But it is better than the county.
It was just
county.
There's a black screen, just sound, no.
I'm surprised Aaron didn't.
No. Well, I think one or two. I think it might have been the two that he wasn't there, like when he had other arrangements. So that'd be the first thing.
It's great. We don't have to do it anymore, so works out well for us.
Yeah. So I think that'd be one of the first things I want to get done, and then also trying to make all like the Board of Works, the RDC meetings, all that as well online. I mean, Muncie is far larger than we are, and
they're a separate entity.
Well, yeah. Well,
you have no control over the Board of Works.
but public meetings, I mean, they should easily.
They'll just show up to the meeting and make sure the camera's turned on.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Anything in your room, right? You guys control that room. So in theory, you could say, hey, council chambers, this equipment's on. Y'all can have your meeting now.
Yeah. And I just don't understand why nobody would want to have their public meeting broadcasted. I mean, it keeps everybody, a little more honest, and it's easier. Just like we discussed earlier, the Board of Works meetings at 9:30 in the morning. How am I possibly going to make that without taking lunch?
I've made 2.
Yeah. How?
But if you do have a stream, then it's available so the members can have it to look back on, and it's not a he said, she said thing. It's,
now you do get
you can all go right back to it.
The notes, the minutes from it, but that's not like being.
Yeah, the minutes don't reflect the emotion.
Minutes take action, right? It's a sentence or two on discussion, and then it records any action that was taken.
So, well, hopefully we could get the public meetings on board with being broadcast. I mean, Muncie already does it, so I don't see why we shouldn't easily be able to do it as well. And then making sure that the council enforces its power and ensures itself as part of the budget making process. That's one big thing. The council should have known that none of the department heads had been talked to before they had been brought to the first reading. I think EMS got talked to but they talked in April or May.
It was early.
Yeah. It was early. So maybe start these negotiations a little earlier see if the administration would be willing to do that. I mean, you can kind of guess.
There was some of them that's already set by dates.
Okay, so maybe move a little sooner, but and just making sure
he's getting called out already. His phone went off, and he's got to go turn the lights on for somebody. That's what's going down.
Not to talk bad about her.
Well, I don't think it's that wife. I think it's the other wife.
It's the electric company.
Yeah, but just something like that. Just making sure that the city council and just like Jerry said, rezoning ordinances need to be updated. I mean, come on now.
So what I want to hear from each of you, I guess, is how's the campaign going? The door to door, the conversations with voters, how you've been approaching the campaign. How's that been going?
For me, probably one of my benefits was being at the school for so long.
Power name.
Well, no, Chris, I think people all over the city kind of have a trust in me, and they contact me, which, that means a lot to me. Just to have, and Chris, I'm sure you just want to have the respect of people like that, and you want to make sure they have trust and confidence that they can call you. I'm one who, I don't go out and make a big public display about stuff. I go behind the scenes. I talk to the department heads. And Chris, you probably noticed this. I'll thank Kenny Dell or
Lee
or someone because of something we've discussed or some other committee member. I guess that's the counselor coming out in me. But I enjoy getting out and talking with people. I'm confident when people come up and see me out in public. You go to Walmart, and spend 15 minutes and 2 hours later, and that's awesome.
Unless you're trying to get in and out real fast.
Yeah. Well, then
you got to use the garden door and get in and out secretly.
But when you take on this position, you got to expect that. You got to expect the phone calls at home.
Yep.
You got to expect people sending you a message or emailing you. My toughest thing is remembering to check the city email because, I ask them to send it to my personal because I check that every day.
It's easily pop. I don't know.
And when you go Jerry.Walden at cityofnewcastle.org or whatever it is, and it has some crazy password. But, and Chris, I don't know.
Do you want to just tell everybody your password and we'll just share it with the community?
He goes, hold on, let me log in.
We can watch your email for you. It's fine.
Just like when Chris started showing up for the council meetings, I went up and told him, I said, Chris, I'm really happy you're coming here and you need to get involved.
Absolutely.
And that thrills me.
And you said, why didn't you run for at-large, Guffey?
No, I would have never said. I'm not that type of person. I'm glad he's running.
Yep.
We need. It's embarrassing that we didn't get to vote in the primary. It's that simple. It is absolutely embarrassing. I'm glad Chris is running. I don't take that as a slap in the back of the head.
The way it's supposed to work is the way I always look at it, right?
It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Voting is our very precious right. It's our most precious right in this country. And one of my concerns is that people are going to look at this, say, well, only 3 polling places are open.
It's very strange.
That's my concern. I don't have a good feeling about it.
When the voters in your ward go, your names are the only ones on the ballot. Mm-hmm. So when they go to vote, it's going to be either the people that are going to vote for Jerry or going to vote for Chris on purpose, or it's the people that vote every time. Period. Those are the only people. That's the only race on the ballot. Even though everybody else filed, you have an at-large race, you have the mayor's race. The decision that was made where they said, hey, it's the clerk treasurer's race, the judge's race, literally you're going to pull a ballot. It's going to be the strangest ballot ever because it's going to say Chris Guffey or Jerry Walden.
And what's been neat about this, Chris and I have had some really good discussions because I think we go to about every.
It seems
meeting.
like I was going to say there for a little bit. It seemed like I was running into Jerry more than I was running into anybody else.
It was everything
to the point where you're wearing the same shirts.
Yeah, we're twins.
I tell
separated by 40 years.
I tell you, the more and more I learn about Jerry, the more and more I see my life as developing into exactly like his.
Well, I've been dating my wife since she was a freshman in high school and I was a sophomore.
Well, that's
1973, dude.
You got a little longer on time frame, but the recent acquirement of the girlfriend is a special education teacher, just like yours. So it's
and teachers are special people, guys. And especially special needs.
I married a teacher, and then she's not a teacher anymore because of that state of Indiana thing. It is not easy to stay a teacher.
When I was
it's a separate conversation, but
when I was at some of the very first testing meetings with Mr. Bennett, when they said, this actually was stated in meeting, a certain percentage of students must fail this test, I couldn't sit still in my chair.
Yeah.
So I stood up. I said, you need to say that again, because being a person that had 3 master's level courses in test and measurements, I've never heard that in any of those courses, that a certain number of students must fail a test. If that's what they're looking for, people, those millions of dollars we've been spending on this test has been thrown down the drain. And it's a shame. I mean, when you go into a testing room and you see sophomores sitting at a test, special needs kids, sitting at that computer looking at biology, a course they've never taken and will never take, and say, Mr. Wall, I don't know what this is saying. Yep. Can you help me? And you can't say anything. Guys,
that's not the right system.
I know that's off subject, but
Chris,
I could talk about that as a single subject.
Well, maybe someday we'll run you for superintendent of public instruction. Well, you can't run for that anymore. It's an appointed job going forward. Yeah. Jennifer McCormick's the last one.
Lost another vote, didn't we?
Yeah. All right. So what's it been like going door to door for you? I know you've been, since you announced, you've been running around the district every Sunday.
Yeah. Well,
doing the drives.
Yeah, I drive the ward about, I think, every other Sunday. In the morning, I'll drive around. So if you've seen a white Chevy Cruze,
see, Chris, that's how I drive it. I drive the whole ward once a month. Yeah. And I told Kat, I said, man, some of these people are going to think I'm a creeper driving up and down the street.
Case in the joint.
They see this Jeep Cherokee with the Cubs sign in front of it.
So I've been doing that and been putting out like all kinds of signs, been hitting the doors. Had 2 walking weekends where I've forced friendship and made people go walk with me. I took the girlfriend one weekend. And
she's committed when she's going door to door with you.
I know. And
she's
then
a keeper, right?
So far. we can't overextend here, boys. Can't overextend.
Starting to get permanent.
And then so
Dakota has rejoined us.
I'm back.
We have 1 more week that we're going to walk. Then that'll finish off the ward. Then, I'm just doing everything I can.
Then it's all in the voters' hands. You've done all you can, right?
Yep. At that point, it's absolutely, the voters going in to pick. And to get back to the polling locations, not really the polling locations, but the voting machines, I just hope that the first screen that they seen is not, do you want to vote Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian? Because if
they all straight ticket vote Republican and nobody gets any votes.
Guys, I tell you what, if you do anything, you need to work the polls one year. I worked the last round, and Chris is exactly right. That had people so confused.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That is the biggest
issue. If you voted, you went in,
Absolutely.
and if you said, I don't want to vote straight ticket, it acted like you made a mistake.
Oh, you're doing this wrong. You don't know how to vote.
And they can fix that. The county voting commission can fix that.
Well, and they need to. They need to just take that off the option. And,
everyone's name should be on the same page.
You can still vote straight ticket if you want, but you have to go through and pick. Not
you pick all the Democrats.
I pushed one button. I'm done, boys. I'm out of here. You guys can't tell me anything else.
Go vote straight ticket Republican. There's no Republicans. And
well, I don't even know if it'd give you the option.
Yeah, that's a good question.
It might just be, do you want to vote Democrat or Libertarian?
But
probably ought to go get a sample ballot there, Mr. Libertarian Chairman, and see what it looks like.
I'll find out, because, Chris, one thing you do want to do is vote early. Don't wait until voting day.
Oh, yeah.
Because you'll be way too busy.
Oh, so when Jeremiah ran, I worked the polls for him, and I'm like, It's like, glad I voted her then.
But it really should be one page with whatever office is being ran for, with everyone's name on that one page. Yep. You should have to pick.
Yep. You shouldn't have, and it's not taking away any right of
You're not
yours.
being disenfranchised,
No.
right?
You can still vote straight Republican, straight Democrat, straight Libertarian. You just have to put in just a teeny tiny extra bit of work and take a little extra time just pushing 5 buttons instead of just pushing one. And you know what?
Or don't vote in all the races.
Well, or
only vote for people that earned your vote.
Yeah, or you don't have to vote in all the races. But you may skip over to the third page and you're like, well, I don't know this guy, but I know him, but he's a Republican or a Libertarian, and I only vote Democrat, but I'm going to give him a chance.
Guys, the day I vote straight ticket, this country's in trouble.
Hold on now, because you're going to vote straight ticket, technically. You only got one choice.
This country's in trouble.
All right.
But that's
We're getting to that point in the show where we probably ought to start putting a bow on it. So we'll go around and get some final thoughts from folks, see what see if we missed anything, if there's anything you need to plug. Mr. Guffey, you're on the right. We typically go in counterclockwise fashion around here, so you're on the clock.
No matter where I sit, I'm always the first one to go.
Congratulations.
So
it's the blue shirt.
It must be. But no, let's see. If you want to reach out to me, I make my Facebook page, either my personal page or my campaign page is very accessible. My email address is on the campaign page. My phone number is on the campaign page. If you call me between the hours of 8 to 5, just leave a voicemail and I will get back to you. I may
You're out there working for the man.
I may text you back, but I will reach out in some fashion. Or unless you want me to call you back, just tell me to call you back and I will. But let's see what else. Friday I'm going to Jeremiah. Where are we going?
I'm going to Clifty Falls. And
I'm going to Clifty Falls.
You're following me. I just found out about it tonight.
Paige doesn't know. I haven't told her, but she's watching the podcast now. So Paige, Friday night I will pick you up.
You're going darn near to Kentucky.
We're going down.
Going to go down there near Albany.
So,
down there near Milton.
Either way, I will say I've had the pleasure of running against Jerry. Perfect opponent that I would run. I'd like to run against. He's nice, and he still doesn't. Well, you know, because sometimes.
Well, he's now. I mean, there's only a couple weeks left. He could turn real nasty on you if you upset him.
I don't. I feel like that's not the kind of person he is. But
never do that.
He still takes my phone calls. Still talks to me in the meetings. He hasn't excommunicated me yet. We'll see how it goes. But no, Jerry, seriously, it's been a pleasure. Either way, I think the city's going to go in the right direction.
Yes.
All right, Jerry. Anything we left out? Anything you wanted to cover that we didn't go? You got 5 open minutes to talk about the education system if you want to.
It'd take 5 hours to do that. Just like Chris, the only thing that I'd like to add, my home phone number's on there. Yeah, I still have a old-time phone.
You want to give those telemarketers somebody to call.
Oh, yeah. I
have you bought some car warranties?
I love playing games with them. But the only thing I ask, if I don't recognize someone's number, I don't answer it, but please leave me a message with your name, and I'll call back or message back, ever how you get a hold of me. It's Chris, at some point, not saying it's going to be this point, but at some point, you'll find out what it's like to be in a leadership role like this, and it's intimidating.
Yep.
You're in charge of a lot of people. A lot of people are expecting you to do things for them, and you get tugged in a million different directions. It's a huge responsibility, but take joy in it. I've enjoyed my whole time, this 3.5 years. I've only missed 2 meetings out of all of them. One, because first year we already had a family vacation that we'd gone on for over 20 years already set up. And another time I didn't need to be around people because I was so sick. So I'm not going to make others sick, but it. I don't think there's anyone in this room who doesn't care about Newcastle, who doesn't love Newcastle, wants to see it grow and go in the right direction for everyone. We just don't serve just Ward 3. We serve all of Newcastle. And I think some people forget that the city council meetings is the people's council meeting. It's for the people, the citizens of this city. And they need to attend. They need to get involved with it. It's very important. It's one that directly affects each and every one of us. When we went through the water separation deal and we had to increase the water, sewage, and all that was forced on us. That was mandated by the federal and state governments. And that happened in our first year when we had to deal with the bonding of that. And I asked if the previous council had not got that started, what it would have cost. And it was $3.5 million more dollars. And so we had that savings because of that council's decision. And you got to think about things like that. What's it going to be down the road? Chris, you mentioned that earlier. You really got to think about that. I'm not going to be around in 20 years. I'm a cancer survivor. I celebrated 11 years out on October 8th, and I'm healthy. I'm fat and sassy, and guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you do here. Your service for what you're doing and getting here. You're very fair-handed. I don't care what others say about it. No, you're very fair-handed. Even when I see you out in public, I enjoy you taking time out, coming up and talking to me, and need to find out what you thought of Twin Lions after we get out of this. So. But I do appreciate you giving me the time to do this. And Chris is an awesome person. He cares about this city just as much as I do. He is very much of a gentleman, called me when he did, and I took that with great respect, and I do respect him for that.
Well, we're very appreciative. Obviously, it's a unique situation having this program and having Chris be a part of it and still having you come on, and we're I think you're doing the community a service by coming on as well. We try to provide
Most
this.
Definitely.
We try to provide this platform for everybody to have access to. Sometimes these are low information races, and we've made it one of the themes of this program over the last 2 years while we've been around to make sure we cover local government.
It's just nice to be able to sit down. We might disagree on things, but we've had a conversation.
You have a long form conversation,
and that's missing, and that's what I hate more than anything about the federal races. Yeah, yep. It's not good for it.
I had a conversation with a lady at work, and that was the exact same thing she said. She goes, you just can't talk politics with anybody. I said, well, you should be able to sit down and have a conversation like we do. Even if you completely disagree on everything, you should still be able to just have you can connect with somebody on some level on something.
Well, I guarantee 90% of the time you're going to find something that you agree on.
We've had 134 episodes and no guest has gotten up and walked out. It's always worked out okay.
Off on me,
except for Nate Lamar.
Well, Nate didn't know he was supposed to stay the whole time.
He really left. God bless Nate.
Dakota, what do you say?
I have nothing to promote. Thank you for coming on, Jerry. Appreciate you being a part of this. Make sure you tell the mayor that we're safe and he can come on. The invitation is still open.
And make sure
we don't bite.
Hey, make sure you let Kathy know that I'd really appreciate the table.
Oh yeah, I have it in the back of my car.
Yeah,
I'll give it to you right now.
I have a final thought, and it's I'm going to be down in Madison at Clifty Falls, leaving Thursday on a previously scheduled thing. But the county council decided they're going to have an emergency tax raising session. So Thursday night, I won't be there. So I'm hoping that some citizens show up and speak their piece. We've got a tax increase coming. They're going to raise it 0.2% to pay for a jail. And I went into the MVP barbershop and I talked to High Tax Clay and gave him a hard time.
It's only quarters. It's only less than a quarter a day.
And I said, man, you voted for the public safety income tax, and that hasn't worked out all that great for the county. And now you're going to vote for this one, and at least the people in Vigo County and the people of Hancock County got a new jail out of it. Now you don't even have that promise. You're voting yes to a tax and you don't know what you're getting for it. So if you want to vote no on principle, fine, I'm with you. I'm all about it. I ran a year ago on no new taxes. This is coming. Don't do it. And I was a candidate that said no to that. But even if you can entertain a tax, if they're going to give you a jail for it, you don't have that plan yet. You're not that far, but you're going to blindly vote yes for a tax, and they're going to take it, they're going to spend it, they're going to do something with it, and you're not going to have an asset at the end of it. So show up Thursday night and speak your piece and actually challenge them a little bit, because I think they're going through the motions because the state's forcing them to do it. But I think the other option is to have 500, 600, 700 local government officials show up in January at the State House and say, this is not okay. We're not doing it. We're not going to we're not going to raise the taxes on our people because you're sitting on $2 billion in empty prisons because you want the level 6s in the county jails. That's not the way this should work. But the easy thing to do is to say, yep, I guess we have to do it, and have 7 yeses, and everybody moves on.
And guys, I guarantee you, when I left that meeting where Madison County and Henry County met, when I walked out of there, Chris, were you there for that one?
I don't know if I went to the Madison County one.
When I walked out, I could have told you right then and there it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So just
unless somebody changes it, your taxes are going up. So that's my plea. Show up on Thursday and let your piece be known. At least you can speak your case and
time again.
Go from there.
What's the time on that again?
I assume it's a 6 o'clock, 6:30.
What is it? A council meeting?
It's a Henry County Council.
6 o'clock.
But I don't know if it's a special one. Yeah.
No, it'll be 6 o'clock at the old courthouse.
Should be on their website announcing it.
I'd be willing to bet.
So, but it's coming.
So.
Thank you for listening to the Boss Hog of Liberty, which is part of the We Are Libertarians Network. I am Chris Spangle, and I am the founder of this network, and I invite you to listen to all of our shows, which you can find at wearelibertarians.com or by searching for these in your podcatcher. The flagship show is the We Are Libertarians podcast, where we apply libertarian principles to current events. The Brian Nichols Show is a conversation amongst Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, as they talk about what is happening in the news. And we have many other podcasts like The Chris Spangle Show, Upward, The Cost, Raw Audio Politics, Miranda's World, and Tad Talk, which is quite a ride. So check all of these out. Go to wearelibertarians.com and you can check out all of our great podcasts. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at wearelibertarians.com.